Okay, so welcome to this new video. I'm making an additional video to this really cool post I did here, the all demo session of the VHR. And when I say VHR, I'm talking about the Veeam Hardened Repository from Veeam. So what we did, we wanted to take the work, the hard work out of the VHR. So I made a video of just walking through the resources that are in this post and everything from the Linux config, the storage. I walked everything through, the documentation, and then how you configure it in BNR. Now, this was one of the more popular sessions at Veeam, but we did something special. We made two things available. One, a hardening script, and then two, I'm going to put this in blue because it rhymes with two, and it's awesome for you, the installable ISO. Now, I want to walk through in this video what this ISO does. This ISO basically takes all the options, almost all the options, out of the install, and it applies that hardening script. How cool is that? Big shout out to Christoph and product management for making this happen. I want to draw your attention to these install requirements, which I've already gone through. And then also, it's important to note that this isn't by itself, the ISO, a supported product. It's a community effort. But once you have a VHR set up, that's different. That is supported, okay? And the most important thing is actually this thing. And I'm going to put this in red. And I'm going to do this, and I'm doing it now so I don't forget. But you're going to do this one particular step. It's what I call a green pill. That last reboot locks down the whole system. And I'm going to show you what you can't do. You really can't do anything afterwards. So you have to commit that if you use this ISO, this system will be a VHR, and that is its only mission in life. Okay? So now I'm going to, first of all, break the rule. I'm going to do this as a virtual machine. Now, the reason why I'm doing it as a virtual machine is because it's much easier to do this for you as a video. And then secondly, if you're like me, you keep changing your setup. In production, of course, I would recommend doing this as a physical server. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you the file that I downloaded. So I have opened up the hash. So let's take that and let's compare the hash here real quick. So let's take the file hashes, drop those in. Let's make sure they match still. They did before. And they do. Good stuff. Where am I getting those files? I should clarify that just a click. Right here. The installable ISO file. You download it from there. You will need this password in blue right there to get that file from the special OneDrive. I'm working on getting it on the veeam.com page, but I'll update it here. And also important to note, you see how it says 24 May. It's very likely we'll have a new one, but we'll just keep updating it, and the old one will go away. I'm not maintaining a library here. All right, so I'm going to go into the way we're not supposed to do it, which I have two of those open, so let's close one of them. First thing I'm going to do is mount the ISO file that I've downloaded. There it is. Okay, let's hit it. So right away, you can tell something's up. Let's zoom in here. What do you have? You have this option to install the Hardened Repository and deletes everything. Well, I like that. So it's going to take a few liberties on this installation. For one, again, double check those system requirements, 100 gig or more, and then if you have multiple disks like I do, it'll just determine that the smallest one that's 100 gig or more will be the OS, and then subsequent ones will be for the actual role of a repository. All right, so we got this beautiful little loader here that does its magic. When you do this install, you want to make sure, back in my Community Hub post, you have a number of things pre-set up. Mainly this question in your networking. You're going to want to have this predetermined before you go in, right? Now, if you're in a lab, you're playing around, different story. Right? And I recommend you do that before you take it to a physical server and drop in the real role of VHR. Now, and it's important to get the sequence correct, which is why I'm doing this video. So let's go first and do the probably the first question is going to be is around networking. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to go with this 131, but I also love to double check that I'm not going to have IPv6 doing its thing, which is a good default here. It is. Okay. Okay. So I have that, and let's watch that 131. I don't need a proxy in this lab. Okay. So if I did, or if I needed a static IP, I would just set that here. Now, that's really the only like significant questions, because this one actually will configure the disk. Those have been pre-answered, and then it's going to ask me, what am I going to call the system? So I'm going to put in a personal name. I'm going to put in a name here that is the same as the computer name. Again, I'm doing this as a VM for video reasons, and I recommend a good solid password. Can't type and talk at the same time on that, so I'm going to make sure I got that right. Yep. All right, and that's it. Those are the only options you have to do for the install. So this ISO has really simplified a lot of it. And while it's going, I'm going to jump over and show you a few things. So I need to update the markdown file with this extra information, but I'll have all of that in there. But it's all in here too. It's just however people want to consume it. I do want to bring your attention to this hardening script. Okay. So this is a hardening script that's in the Veeam Open repo that does a bunch of stuff. So I think I have it over here. But all of these different configuration elements here to get the disastig requirement. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a thing. This set of qualifications for disastig, we have it super documented here. It is a lot of things. What we've done in the ISO is actually just automate all of that. So there's disastig right there. And so Hannes did all of this work. Thank you, Hannes. And then Hannes and Christoph, who also did the presentation with me at Veeam, helped get to the milestone of the ISO. But it's important to note that this ISO will do this configuration in the background. So you don't have to go do all of these bizarre Linux settings. So let's give this a moment here. And I found the one thing I would recommend you do is go through this a few times, you know, maybe on a virtual machine first, just so you get the BNR and the VHR part right. Then take it to, you know, an actual server, because you'll find yourself, having to go back and maybe change this, change that. Same thing goes for like networking and maybe name of the system, all that good stuff. So just my thought is do it once or twice on the on a virtual machine or some sort of easily accessible test system. Oh, very important part. This ISO is for use with Veeam V12. It won't work with V11. So if you're on V11 still, over at the Community Hub, go to the top and you can get my upgrade center right there, and then you can get all the good juice on that. So if you're not on V11, now's the time. The big patch is out and everything. All right, so we have that message at the top that the install is complete. Let's go ahead and reboot. I'll go ahead and do that, but well, I need to actually do that. So let me reboot that here. Disconnect. I'm just going to reboot it again. So it should do its thing now. Yeah. All right, so once this is booting the first time, first of all, you know it's a hardened repo. We've already got some feedback on what to put there on that text, and go ahead and put it in the Veeam Community Hub post on this session, on this ISO here. This is important right here. So all the config here, automated hardening. You can see it up there at the top. That is happening right now, right? So that long list of things to do are being done. So if you have a need for a hardened environment, I'm not familiar myself with those requirements, but I can tell you once this is done, this account locally can do very little other than just be a Veeam repo. So this is a really solid choice here for getting a nice hardened Veeam repository in place. So let's just go for a bit. And I also would highlight that, if you're really curious on what this is actually doing, this the Veeam sys document that explains the hardening script is available to read, right? If you go to the Veeam open page, this is all available here. Yeah, and it's all in GitHub there with all of the hardening scripts here. So it's all in there, right? So you can see what it's doing, right? But it's all built into the to this ISO here. And I should highlight, this is, okay, the other piece of feedback, this is Ubuntu only right now. Leave us a comment in this post about what other distros you want, right? Do you want, Red Hat came up already, obviously, but let us know if anything else comes up that you want. This is good. I don't know if you caught it up there at the top. The hardening process is finished. That's a nice one there. All right, now, one thing I want to do, I'm in a lab environment. I know everyone's environment is different. I want to make sure my IP didn't change. So I'm 131 right now, okay? Funny story. I had a situation where I did this, and a colleague of mine, Cadezilla, Michael, deployed some massive Kubernetes cluster, and it just destroyed a lot of, well, I don't want to say destroyed, but it took a lot of the IPs. And then literally during a reboot of this, I got a different IP, and I found out that I can't change the IP, okay? Like even little things like get a new DHCP, I can reboot, but some of the commands are removed, right? So you want to be sure, like when you deploy this, that you're intentional about it. Now I have a lab, and so this is DHCP is okay. All right, so let's do my login here. VHR admin. Nice, good password. Okay. So yeah, a couple of things to look in here before we get into the Veeamery of it. Let's double check Ubuntu 2004 LTS. That's good. Double check my IP 131. I like that. Check out there. Process is 292. Note that. Let me do that before I forget. Processes. Procs 292. Note that. Okay. Because on reboot is really when it's going to kick in. And then also, nobody's logged in. No updates. The other thing to note is, especially for physical systems, hardware enablement stack, HWE, is good. All right, so now I'm in business. Now, one of the things, back to the post here, about with the way this is deployed on the VHR, right there. The final VHR layout will have all disks mounted to mount backup N. So now, let me clarify what that means. If you have multiple disks, it will be backup 1, backup 2, backup 3, etc. So I am expecting that I'm going to have mount, backup, and only one. There it is. There. Now, if I had multiple disks, it would say tab, 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 and I can get the others. But there should be nothing in there. And that's my my path where the repo will be, the VHR will be. So what we do need to do is in here, in here, these two little commands. Now I have this in the Help Center doc as well, right? But if you're not used to Help Center, it's super easy to navigate. But I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Let me put this up there. Close that one because I don't need that one. I'm gonna put that there. I'm gonna scale this one down. Nope. Scale this one over here. Sorry, I apologize for the labbery here. This, I think my mouse is not cooperating. Battery might be getting low. Alright. Alright, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to just have these two visible, left and right on one screen. These two screens are the ones I need to do. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is a sudo change ownership R to VHR admin for this path. Mount backups 1 or backup 1. Clear? Oh, password. Invalid option. Oh, capital R makes a difference every time. Again, see, this is, I'm not a Linux guru, right? So I hope some of you are better than me at this. There we go. Done. Then the second command, sudo change mode to 700 for same path. Clear. All right. Now, this is where the magic happens. I'm going to go into Veeam BNR, and I'm being a good boy with my BNR, and I need multi-factor. So I'm going to go over there, and I use the Authy app, nice little mobile app for OTP one-time passwords. And by the way, this doesn't require internet. I mean, I do have internet here, but you know, if you think about super hardened environments, A, multi-factor, definitely have. B, internet, probably don't need it, so don't have it. So for this particular server, got a minute or so, so let's do 652.525. Confirm it. Yep, I love that little app. It's pretty handy. So what I'm going to do is to pull this new VHR in. First of all, now if Hannes was watching me do it, he'd say do it up on backup repositories, but I like to do it here, and I'll explain why. So let's do this 172.31 dot. How good do I know my environment here? Is it 32.119.131? I think that's it. I did another one earlier. Yeah, 172.31.119.131. Now, this is also a good opportunity to use DNS. Okay, I'm a lab environment here, but because I've, you know, as you can see by the ping command that I stopped, I was doing it again with another one. So the best practice would be DNS. This is also the best practice. Super important to use a single-use credential for the VHR. This is really important because it won't have a persistent connection from the Veeam server to the VHR. So we put in VHR admin here, and it's just to deploy the services, and then the services will kind of interact on their own. So it's going to do that SSH connection as a one-timer here and push those services. So let's make sure that works. I got my IP right. Let's see if I got my password right. I got my ping right. Chances are good. Now it should detect nothing, which makes sense because we just installed it from that ISO, yeah? So there should be nothing there, so it would probably be installer and transport that need to get pushed out to this new Linux server. And I'm right. So this is pushing those services out so that this Linux system can interact with Veeam BNR. Now when you think about writing the backups, the transport service will basically do that with the immutable config and all that. So let's give it a second. It'll drop those in. Good point here. Checking if Veeam components are supported by the server. Can't emphasize enough. I'll let this go for a second. The requirements here. Now they're honestly pretty Spartan right here. This is surprisingly sometimes high. You know, it was working, quote unquote, working with less, but I think if you use it ongoing for production, it's not going to be a good idea. So let us know on that if you find that not a tenable requirement. But the most important thing is if you're doing this as a virtual machine, as I am, this is necessary. It will fail if you don't do that. All right, still looking good there. Back over here, do we have services? Yep, and we are taking a disk inventory, always a good sign. Cool. Rock and roll. So now I go over here, and I'm going to make a new Veeam repo. This is what we're here for. So the VHR categorically in this list is DAS, Direct Attached Storage. So let's hit it. Then it is the VHR down here, predefined options, right? So I'm going to do that. Now let's just give it a name. Now it's hardened double up, right? So we've got the Linux hardened and we're putting it in a smart way with a single use credential. Now, I already have that one system inventory, so it's like, oh yeah, use that one. It's the only quote-unquote candidate. But I could also hit that add new button and drop one in if I wanted to. This is super important. I guess I can type it. See if my path skills are right. Backup 1. Now, I should get around 24T in here. Survey says just under. Happy days. Now, one thing I want to highlight. By default, in V12, the VHR comes in with +7 immutable days. It's also super important to realize that the VHR does better, and the ISO assumes you want your backups on XFS. If you're not familiar with XFS, that little box in the green, that little checkbox in the green section, that is a spaceless full backup technique. It's not deduplication, but it prevents duplication. Example, I'm doing synthetic fools, doing any type of manipulation where I'm reading and writing something on the same volume. It doesn't copy it, read it and copy it, it just links it. It is not deduplication, but it prevents duplication. Dave Russell and I call it no dupe. Definitely use it if you have XFS and Linux. It's a default, but I just want to explain it real quick. All right, mount server. So that's a role for like instant recovery and all those nice and snazzy things that Veeam does. Right there, you can see it. Yep. The services are already there. Now you might say that one wasn't there, but it's reusing the existing services. Now, as we finish this wizard, two things on this list are super important that happen right after this step. One is the restricted mode. And then 2 is checking these rights folder. These two right here. If it's going to mess up, it's going to mess up there. So right now, we have a Veeam repository. I have a couple other VHRs up in the mix. You see the one that I have above a little bit more permanent. I do have DNS going on, right? Yeah. But this one here, I give it the name, and I am using the DHCP. But that's just to give you a sense here. And of course, what you always do is make sure that it pops into Veeam 1. It's the most important thing to do. So even with, there it is, just on time, you can see installable ISO popped in there, and I should have 7 days. All right, but we are not done. If you were a Veeam admin of normal circumstance, you're like, okay, let's lock and load, let's go. But go back here to this thing here. Important, reboot again. I want to call this the green pill. The VHR will take this green pill and finish the hardening. And the only thing afterwards is, rebooting and shutting down. This is the result of the hardening. So be very intentional on it. Are you ready to do the green pill? Let's do it. So once we do this, the hardened repo will be nothing like it was. Remember that 229 on processes, right? So that's my hash. I can close that. Processes 229. So let's see if it even tells us that. All right, same password. And you see I have a new banner at the top right. So it's super light. Now I have 286, slightly less, right? But trust me, nothing's going on. Like for example, watch this. Mention this is DHCP, right? So Ubuntu DHCP renew. Watch this. Can't even do it, Let's see how Let's see if I can just get it. I don't know how to do it exactly. So, I mean, you could just reboot, but like just using this DH client, there we go. That's way too, there. That's what I'm looking for. DH client renew R. So watch this. Sudo DH client R. No bacon for you. Watch this. See? Not allowed to do it. So that and many other things are locked down. So right now, friends, we have the VHR locked down, ready for use. Let me know how it goes over here at the Community Hub. I have this post. I'm going to embed this video down here, but give a read to all of this. Give a kick in the lab. I think this is really, really important. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy this new capability with the Veeam Hardened Repository.